Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good afternoon. No, it's good morning. It's good morning. How are you doing this morning? This guy Ray coming to you live all the way from here. Where's here? Right chair. Here's your here we at. We at this thing. This is our first day. And I didn't even really promote this a whole lot. I'm gonna do better next week. My book reading for From Homeless to Housing the Homeless. The missing link between homelessness, housing, and lasting transformation. One body, one mission, one purpose, one kingdom. And I'm going to take it slow this morning. I'm hoping I'm in an area. I'm hoping my internet on my YouTube side stay perfect or stay good. Uh Listen, I want you to hit that like button, that share button, notification button. All my people on YouTube, you know what time it is. Hey, my Facebook people, come on, share this thing, love this thing. And I'm recording live on this other thing. So I'm back in the flow. I got recordings going on all over the place. Got a lot of things going on. Hey, I'm Ray Wilkerson, your live expert in housing navigation, recovery, and transformation. Understand this. I do not teach from theory. I teach from what life taught me. And this morning, I want to welcome all of y'all in this morning. I can't really see who's what, but that's okay. I'll figure this thing out later. But this is the first, listen, this is my first reading. I'm going to start reading from my new book, From Homeless to Housing the Homeless, the missing link between homelessness, housing, and lasting transformation. One body, one mission, one kingdom. So, a little bit of backdrop, right? This book is for like housing navigators, social workers, case managers, people who have a passion for housing the homeless, but it's also intertwined with my story. For those of you who have been going through things, been in darkness, have come out of the light or trying to figure out how to come out of the light, been dealing with some personal issues. This book is for you too. You can go on Amazon, just type in Ray Wilkerson. I got about 6 books there, but the one you want to get the missing link. And I want to get right with it this morning because I'm gonna do better next week, right? I'm gonna do better this week, promoting, getting you guys here. Um, of course, I want you guys to buy the book, but it's really not about buying the book right now. It's about getting you the information. So I want to start off with the dedication. This is dedicated to every person who has ever slept on a train, underneath a bridge, in a shelter, on a couch, in a basement, or in a place they never imagined they would find themselves. This book is for you. Your story is not over. Your current chapter is not your final chapter. Transformation is possible. Man, sleeping on trains, uh, being in basements with dirty mattresses, sharing it with rodents, and sleeping on other people's couch and hearing the words, "Get out, you got to leave." Walking outside a place, walking outside a building or anywhere you walk outside to, and you look in front of you, look behind you, you look to the left, you look to the right. And it don't matter which way you go, you don't have nowhere to go. It doesn't matter. You're looking around, determining which way you want to start walking. And it doesn't matter because any way you walk, you don't have nowhere to go. This is for you who've been through that. This is for you who've been through the voices. This is for you who've been through the flashbacks of things that you have done in your life. This is for you who have been places that you never thought you would be. This is for you who have done things that you never thought you would do. This is for you who thought your life was meaningless. This is for you who wish you never existed. This is for you who thought you were a good mother, a bad mother. This is for you who thought you was a bad father. This is for you who was gripped in the grips of drug addiction. This is for you who have been in prison and can't being in that prison cell, wondering how you got there. This is for you. Tell you about the author, who is me. Yeah, I'm gonna read you this thing, man, because it's really like we have gone through some things, and I'm telling you, there is hope. There is a new beginning from an old chapter. That last chapter does not define who you are. This is a little bit about the author. Once again, I'm reading from my book, right? From Homeless to Housing the Homeless, the missing link between homelessness, housing, lasting transformation, one body, one mission, one purpose, one kingdom. This is dedicated to those who've been through some stuff that mentally you have been through some things that would have drove other people crazy. I was this close of being institutionalized. This close. I came this close to saying I feel like this close to being put on that psych ward. This is for those, even now. You might not been through the drugs, you might not been, but you've been out there homeless, you didn't have no key, you heard the words, get out, 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 get out. This is from the author. This book is more than a story about homelessness. It is a testimony of transformation, about changing a life, transforming, not just being handed a key and thinking you could start all over. No, it's about transforming your life from one place to another, from a place that God never intended you to be to a place that God intended you to be. This book is more than a story about homelessness. It is a testimony of transformation, a call to rethink housing, and a challenge to build pathways that move people from survival to stability, from stability to purpose, and from purpose to leadership. I was out there like surviving. We want to bring you to thriving. We want to bring you to stability. We want to bring you to purpose. We want to bring you to a place that God has always wanted you to be. You're not the tail, but you're the head. That you are a leader amongst people who God wants you to lead. I write from lived, let me go back to the book. I write from lived experience. When I say lived experience, I mean I'm writing from something I lived. Remember, I told you I don't teach from theory. I teach from what life taught me. I lived this thing. I ate this thing. I breathed this thing. I walked this thing. I felt this thing. I know what it feels like to eat out of trash cans. I know what it feels like to sleep on them trains. I know what it feels like when winter times come, never to be able to get warm. I write from lived experience. I know what it means to be homeless, addicted, hopeless, and trapped in cycles that feel impossible to escape. I also know what it means for God to restore purpose in a life that seemed broken beyond repair. I know like that hopeless feeling. I know like I'm hearing these voices that is telling me it's never gonna get better. You never gonna get off of drugs. You never gonna be a good father. You never gonna be a good mother. See, who wants you? See, every time you try to do good, you always wind up falling, failing. I know what it feels like to hear them voices. But I also know what it feels like to hear God tells you, I'm tired of you doing what you're doing to yourself. Come. I have prayed for you. When I wound up on that second floor fire escape in North Philadelphia with that 357, and Jesus Christ came and saved my life, he gave me the scripture. He said, I have prayed for you. He said, Satan desired to sift you. Satan was trying to kill you, but I prayed for you. And after you're converted, go back and strengthen your brothers. I know what it feels like to understand trauma, right? All that trauma and depression and anxiety and all those things that I was going through, like it was driving me crazy. But I understand God said, your trauma was your training. Your trauma, the stuff that you going through, the stuff that you have been through, the stuff that seemed hopeless, and everybody was looking at you like you was crazy and all those different things, that was your training to be able to do what you do today, to stand in front of somebody and say, I know how you feel. To put a purpose on every negative situation, every negative circumstance. I understand that everything that I went through for you. I know what it means to be restored back to who God intended you to be. Let me go back to the book. My prayer is that this book helps housing navigators, case managers, service providers, faith leaders, policymakers, and people with lived experience. That's what I'm saying. It's real important that if you have a lived experience, you listen, nobody can't tell you certain things because you lived that thing. Lived experience understand that housing matters deeply, but housing alone is not the full destination. The missing link is transformation. Housing, watch this. Housing changes where people live. Transformation change who people are. Hey man, this is for anybody. You didn't have to be homeless. You like your house, your home. It's more than just a key and a roof and living under a roof. There has to be some transformation. Let me slow down, happening in your life. See, housing, you can move wherever you want. It just changes where you live. You just got a different key at a different location. You move from one geographical location to another. And yes, housing is important. It's important that we are stable in our house, but it's more important that we start transforming, that we change who we become. Transformation changes who people become, who you are. And that's just the thing from the author. Now, let me tell you a little bit about the author. Back growing up in Camden, New Jersey. Listen, I'm telling you. Listen. I am so happy. I told my mom. Let me slow down. My mom is from Waco, Texas. She moved to Camden, New Jersey. I was born August 6, 1958. That was 2 days ago in Camden, New Jersey, Cooper Hospital at 10:30 a.m. And I thanked her to this day that she left Waco, Texas and came to Camden, New Jersey. In my book, we're going to go to a chapter about Camden, New Jersey. Camden molded and shaped me who I am today. The reason that I was to withstand some things in life, that when I was doing some crazy things, is because of the foundation. Let's not get super spiritual. I know God got me and take care of me and all that stuff, but there was a foundation that he allowed me to have growing up in Camden, New Jersey. See, they say if you can make it in New York, you can make it everywhere. But see, if you can make it in Camden, you can live anywhere. You can be all you can be anywhere you go. And there's a section, we'll get to that. Let me tell you about the author. I'm gonna read it from the book. All my Camden people, y'all, there are stories that you still don't know about me. There are things that I was doing, like to this day. I'm gonna share that in my next book coming out of Total Darkness. I'm revising that, and like I'm gonna get raw. I'm gonna tell the truth about where I came from. I'm gonna tell the truth of what I went through. I'm gonna tell the truth how I was one of Satan's biggest I was one of his most loyal servants. Let me go to the book about the book. This is about the book, right? Told you a little bit about the author, but I'm gonna even expound more. I don't want to give you too much right now because I want to stay in the book. This is about the book. What happens after a person receives housing? The question is at the center of this book. From homeless, who I was, you got to understand, I was homeless. Listen, I always tell people I was homeless for 3 years. I was actually homeless longer than that. But my last 3 years was those 3 years on the streets, like literally on the streets, sleeping in trains, abandoned buildings, going from pillar to post, not being stable, not having a key, not having a key, not having a lease, not having water, nothing in my name. And the key words were get out. I had a room, got a room, and this is why transformation is so important, right? In Camden, they gave you these vouchers for rooms, and I got this room on Chase Street, right? But see, the only problem, all the rooming house in Camden was really like crack houses. So I changed geographical locations from being homeless, right, to a room, but nothing changes. And watch this. Only thing I had to do was go downtown every month and sign. And I couldn't do that, and I still got evicted. So housing is important, but transformation changed who I am. It changes my mindset, changes my thinking pattern. Only thing I had to do was go downtown every first of the month and sign a piece of paper. And I couldn't do that. Let's get back to the book. And I'm talking about the book now. And from homeless to housing the homeless, Ray Wilkerson, me, shares his personal journey from homelessness, addiction, incarceration, and hopelessness to recovery, purpose, housing navigation, and transformational leader. Through raw lived experience and decades of frontline service, Ray challenges readers to look beyond housing placement alone and consider the deeper work required for lasting change. I tell people, like, this is a season of CC. What do I mean? Change or choose. Choose and change. Either you're going to change and choose to change, or you're going to change and choose not to change. Either you're not, so that's there. Choose what change you want. To change or not to change. This book, let me go back to the book. This book introduces the Exodus life change. Listen, my lived experience, my life experience has allowed me to create a organism called Exodus Life Change, where we house guys coming out of prison, homeless, people, substance abuse, mental clients. That's what Exodus Life Change is about, our 4-tier program, but we'll get more into that. But this program was created based on my life experience. This book introduces the Exodus Life Change approach to homelessness, housing navigation, recovery, shared living, leadership development, and community transformation. It is written for housing navigation, case managers, nonprofit leaders, faith communities, policymakers, and anyone who believes people deserve more than to survive. The message is clear. Housing is necessary, but transformation is the missing link. And that just don't apply. Like, this applies for anybody. See, we get get this key and get under this roof, and we think everything is hunky-dory, peachy cream, and it just, but if we're not transforming, if our lives are not changing, if we're not look getting closer to purpose. All right, I'm just going to see. I think I got enough time to read chapter 1. All right, chapter 1. Y'all ready? Hey, get y'all pencils out, get y'all notes out. Listen, you gonna want to listen to chapter 1. Listen, it ain't gonna be a dry eye in the house. Stay with me. Don't jump off. Don't listen. Stop right there. Don't jump off. See, people jumped off too early. All right, here we go. Part one, the journey. Chapter one, the journey begins. Let me drink something here. And drop something in the chat real quick. Ray, I'm with you. I'm understanding. I'm feeling some of the stuff you're talking about. Just drop something in the chat real quick. Let me know who you are, where you at, where you coming from. Okay. The journey begins. There was a time in my life when I believed the world would be better off without me. Can you identify with that? Man, why am I even here? I mean, it seemed like my whole life couldn't do nothing right. But let me stay with the book, right? There was a time in my life when I believed the world would be better off without me. Not because I was a bad person. Not because I hated people. Not because I wanted to hurt anyone. I was simply tired. Man, tired of struggling. Tired of failing. Tired of running. Tired of hearing those voices, the voices that was tearing me apart. And when I was alone and by myself and I had no money and I smoked up everything and I broke promises, those voices, I was just getting tired of hearing voices was bombarding my brain. They were killing me. Tired of carrying the weight of a life that seemed completely out of control. I just every time I couldn't do. They got a thing in Romans chapter 7. I identified my whole life at that time. The things I wanted to do, I couldn't. The things I didn't want to do, I did. The things I hated, that's the things I did. The things I loved to do, I couldn't do. The things I wanted to change from, I just could not change. I was just tired. Tired. On that particular day, I found myself sitting on a second floor fire escape in North Philadelphia. I was alone. I was broken. I was hopeless. And I found myself with a 357 getting ready to blow my brains out. And I'm a veer off from the book for a second. And I'm going to tell you that experience on that second floor fire escape with that 357 getting ready to blow my brains out. And this is my story. This is what happened to me. Moments before I was selling drugs on Broad and Girard in North Philadelphia. And I remember the last couple of nights, the Sticker Boys was there, and we just had a shootout in the hallway, and we had a shootout the previous night before. And I looked out the window and I saw Sticker Boys on one corner, and I saw the Narcs on another corner. And I heard this voice. I didn't know what that voice was then, but I heard this voice said, if you don't get out of here, you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison or you're going to die. And I made my way out of my spot. And I wound up on the second floor fire escape. Pocket full of money and dope. Had enough. Had enough. Yes, sir, my brother Drake. I had enough. I couldn't take it no more. I couldn't believe I was at this place in my life. Like, I'm sitting here, money, drugs, but I'm broken. I'm hopeless. I'm done. I'm done. The voices is telling me, just pull the trigger, pull the trigger, pull the trigger, Ray, right now. And at that moment, God will not put more on you, what you can bear. Jesus Christ came. And he said, I'm tired of you doing what you're doing. Come. And we always say he gives us choices. And I'm looking over here, Matt. He gives us choices, right? But at that moment, the only choice I had was to come to him. He said, I'm tired of you doing what you're doing to yourself. Come. And at that moment, I said, I'm like, if you get me out of this, I will never make people feel the way I felt. And I didn't realize till years later, right? Years later, what I said. Because I would always say, if you get me out of this, I'll never use again. If you get me out of this, I'll never use again. If you get me out of this, I'll never use again. But for this moment, I said, if you get me out of this, I will never make people feel the way I feel. And that's when he said, Satan desires to sift you, but I pray for you. And after you're converted, go back and strengthen your brothers. At that moment in my life, for the first time in my life, I understood why I was created. At that moment in my life, I understood why I had to go through those 20 years of drugs and prison and homelessness. I understood there was that purpose in my life, all the things that I went through, it was not for me. It was so that I could be right here, right now, telling you this story, and to be able to stand in front of someone and say, I know how you feel. Let me get back to the book. At that moment, I believed I had reached the end of my story. I thought it was done data. The strange thing is that most people would never have guessed I would end up there. I listen, when I was growing up, I wasn't listen, I didn't have that type of reputation that would see me like where I was, where my addiction and Satan has taken me through to that place in my life, because I was doing some crazy, raunchy stuff. The strange thing is that most people would never have guessed I would end up there. Neither would I. It did not begin with addiction. It did not begin with homelessness. It did not begin with failure. It began years earlier with a dream. Yeah, you heard Martin Luther King. I had a dream. We had dreams. I had a dream. I wanted to be an architect. Now I just said, how did I get here? How did I get here? The question haunted me. How does a man go from possibility to hopelessness? How does a man go from having dreams to sleeping on trains? How does a man go from managing a Kentucky Fried? How does a man go from managing a Kentucky Fried Chicken restaurant to digging through the trash behind the same building looking for food? Man, that was like an experience. There was such fear in me that I would get caught, that someone would see me, because I still think I had this reputation. Right there on Mount Ethan Avenue and Van Hook Street, I managed that Kentucky Fried, the same Kentucky Fried that I started getting high, and I stole and I embezzled, or however you want to say it, 4 deposit bags and went out and got high, which one of the reasons that caused me to go to prison. That same building. See, I knew what time they said they would take the stuff off and put it in the trash. I knew what time they would put the good chicken out. I knew what time they would put this stuff out, right? So I knew what the time to come. And I could remember searching through the cans. And it was a restaurant, a bar right across the street. And I had to make sure nobody saw me. I had to get in there and get the best food and then sliver away. Let me get back to the book. How does a man go from wearing a suit and tie to eating pizzas off a subway platform? How does a man go from believing in tomorrow to wanting to end today? The truth is that these things rarely happen overnight. Homelessness is usually not one decision. Addiction is usually not one decision. Hopelessness is usually not one decision. They are often the results of many decisions, many disappointments, many wounds, many failures, many moments where a person slowly loses sight of who they were created to be. And it's important you understand, losing sight of who I am. No, not losing sight of who I was created to be. Not losing sight of who I think I am, or who I want you to think I am, but losing sight who God created me to be, the purpose and plan that He had for my life. I lost sight of why I was created, and that was my story. And it brought me to a place where the life nobody saw. I'm in the book, the life nobody saw. People often see homelessness as a housing problem. And certainly housing is part of the issue. But homelessness is often much deeper than that. Behind every homeless person is a story, a family, a dream, a disappointment, a struggle, a series of events that most people never see. When people looked at me during those years, they saw a homeless man. What they did not see was the child who once had a dream, the young man who believed his life would matter, the person who never imagined sleeping on trains, the person who never imagined riding the speed line all night, the person who never imagined sharing a mattress with rodents in a basement, the person who never imagined standing on a fire escape holding a gun. See, people just saw the outcome. Sometimes people look at you and they just see the outcome. They see the outcome, but they never see the journey. They never saw the journey. They never see the journey that got you to the place where you at right now that they're looking at. What caused you to get to that place? What journey did you take to get to where you are? They only see that. They don't know the pain, the suffering. They don't know that the disappointments, the issues, the failures, the ups, the downs, the losses, the wins. They don't see all of that. And I'm gonna stop I'm gonna stop there. I got a little more to go on the first chapter, but I'm gonna stop there because I only wanted to do about 30 minutes. And on the next section, next Saturday, we're gonna be talking about voices. See, so many times people ask me why did I stop using it? You got to understand. 2 days ago, August 6th, I have I had I I had 29 years clean. August 2 days. And people ask me, well, why you stop using? Because people want to assume I stopped using because I got tired of using drugs. No, I love using drugs. Hey, listen, you need to hear what I'm saying. If I could use drugs without all that other stuff, I'd still been using drugs. But I couldn't take the voices. And next Saturday, we're going to talk in chapter 1, we're going to talk about the voices. And first line, one of the things to explain about those years is the battle going on in my mind. The streets were difficult, the addiction was difficult, homelessness was difficult, but the voices were often the worst. Hey, look, share this thing. Put in the comments, man. Put in the comments, Ray, man, I need to get the book. I need to get the book. You can go to Amazon and just type in Ray Wilkerson and make sure you get the one. I have another one for homeless to housing the homeless, but you got to get the one, my latest one, The Missing Link Between Homelessness, Housing, and Lasting Transformation. Share this, right? Put some comments in the section. Let me know, like, What did you get out of this? Did you see yourself in anything that I was sharing? Did you get some solution? Do you understand right now that like you're not by yourself? Because so many times I felt alone. I, I felt like nobody else was going through what I was going through. No, like nobody could see what I was going through until I got into a community and see there were other people just like me. So look, this your guy Ray coming to you live all the way from here. Where's here? Right here. I am Ray Wilkerson, your lived expert, your lived experience expert in homelessness, housing navigation, recovery, and transformation. I don't teach from theory. I teach from what life taught me. One body, one mission, one purpose, one kingdom. Until next week, peace out. Love you.